People gathered that day not because of fame, not because of a red carpet, and not because of a movie premiere. They gathered because they saw something rare, something the world often forgets to cherish. They saw two people holding hands, walking slowly, quietly, like the city around them did not matter. Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant walked side by side, fingers intertwined, not performing, not posing, not trying to be perfect, just being together. And that simple moment made everyone stop and watch. The hook begins here. Sometimes the most powerful love story is the one that speaks in silence. Keanu Reeves had always been known as kind, humble, gentle, and private. He was the man who offered his seat on the train, the man who shared his earnings with the crew behind the scenes, the man who carried loss in his heart but still treated the world with softness. But beneath the kindness, there were scars, deep ones, the kind that change a person forever. For many years, Keanu walked through life alone. He smiled for others, he worked hard, and he gave love to everyone around him. But he rarely let love come back toward him. Some believed he chose loneliness. Others believed loneliness chose him. Only he knew the truth. He did not trust happiness anymore. Every time happiness came close, life took something away. And so, his heart learned to stay quiet. Alexandra Grant entered his life not with noise, but with understanding. She was not trying to fix him. She was not trying to heal him. She simply saw him, really saw him. The way you see a sunrise without trying to control it, without trying to hold it, without trying to own it, just appreciating it for existing. She spoke to him with honesty. She listened to his silence without fear. She never asked him to forget his past. She just reminded him that he did not have to live in it forever. Their story began not in romance, but in friendship. Long conversations about art, books, loss, hope. The kind of late-night talks that do not try to impress, but simply connect. They worked together on creative projects, shared thoughts, shared laughter, shared quiet moments. Little by little, something grew between them. Not a fire that burns fast, but a slow warmth that reaches the bones. But even warmth can be frightening when you have lived in the cold for too long. Keanu hesitated often. He spoke gently. He kept distance sometimes, not because he did not care, but because caring deeply was the very thing that scared him. Alexandra understood this. She gave him space, not distance. She gave him comfort, not pressure. She allowed love to grow at a pace that felt safe. Then one evening, after a long walk in the city, they stopped near a closed bookstore window. The lights reflected against the glass. Alexandra looked at him, her eyes soft, steady, full of patience. "Keanu," she said quietly, "you do not have to walk through life alone. Not anymore. Not unless you choose to." His heart trembled, not from fear, but from being seen. He took her hand, not tightly, not urgently, just enough to say, "I am here. I am trying. I want to live again." And that was the moment their love began. Slow, gentle, real. The crowd that gathered months later did not know this story. They only saw two hands holding. But to Keanu, that hand was a promise that love does not have to be loud to be powerful. It can be quiet, steady, kind. But love, even gentle love, will soon be tested. The world will not stay silent. Not everyone will understand. And the journey they are about to face will demand courage from both of them. Because love cannot exist without truth, and truth will soon walk into their story. The moment Keanu took Alexandra's hand for the first time, it felt like something inside him finally exhaled. He had been holding his heart tightly for years, afraid that if he opened it again, life would take something away. But when her hand rested in his, it did not feel like danger. It felt like peace. Something soft, something true. But peace is not always quiet for long. When the first photograph of them holding hands appeared online, the world reacted fast. Some people celebrated them, saying it was beautiful to see Keanu happy again. Others judged, criticized, and created stories that were not real. Strangers spoke as if they knew his heart. Some questioned Alexandra. Some questioned her appearance. Some tried to decide for him who he should love. The internet can be loud, and sometimes loudness hurts. Alexandra read some of the comments by accident. She felt a heaviness in her chest. Not because she cared what strangers thought of her, but because she feared that this noise would make Keanu retreat. She knew how sensitive his heart was, how easily pain could make him pull back into silence. She sat in her art studio that night, staring at a blank canvas, her thoughts moving in circles. She asked herself a question that many loving hearts have asked before. Am I good enough for him? But love does not measure worth. It sees souls. Meanwhile, Keanu was in his home, reading some of the same comments. He read words that tried to undo the gentle love he had found. He read opinions spoken with no knowledge of truth. But instead of shrinking, something inside him rose. Not anger, not pride. Protection. He took a deep breath, picked up his phone, and called Alexandra. When she answered, her voice was calm, but Keanu could hear the quiet sadness beneath it. He spoke gently, like he always did. Alexandra, you do not have to face the world alone. I am here with you, and I choose you, not because of what others see, but because of who you are. Her eyes filled, not with weakness, but with relief. I just don't want to make your life harder, she whispered. Keanu sat down on the floor, the way he always did when speaking from the heart. You did not make my life harder, he said. You made it softer, lighter, kinder. You gave me a place to rest, and I have not rested in a very long time. Silence wrapped around them in the gentlest way. But their journey was not only emotional. Life would bring challenges that required choices. One day, Keanu was invited to a charity event. It was public, cameras, crowds, attention. He usually attended alone, quietly. But this time, he asked Alexandra to come with him. She hesitated. People will talk again, she said softly. Keanu nodded. They will talk whether we go together or not. But I want to show them that I am not hiding, and I do not want to walk this life without you beside me. Alexandra felt something inside her steady, a courage that was not loud, but rooted in love. So, they walked into the event together, hand in hand, slow, calm, unshaken. People turned. Cameras clicked. Whispers grew. But Keanu did not let go of her hand. Not once. In that moment, he was not the actor, not the star, not the public figure. He was a man choosing the person he loved, and Alexandra, seeing this, felt her heart open wider than she ever expected it. Their love was not about proving anything to the world. It was about choosing each other every day. No matter the noise. But the world would soon offer a test that neither of them saw coming. A test not from outside voices, but from inside their own hearts. Love is gentle, but even gentle things can be shaken. After the charity event, many people admired Keanu and Alexandra walking together. But the attention did not fade quickly. Every interview, every article, every social media post began to mention them. Some praised their grace and maturity. Others tried to twist their story into something dramatic or unusual. And slowly, without either of them realizing, pressure began to build around something that was never meant to be performed. One evening, Alexandra sat in her studio, surrounded by unfinished canvases. She had always used art to express her heart, her pain, her joy, her thoughts. But now, her hands felt still. Her creativity felt blocked. She realized that somewhere, without noticing, she had begun to worry too much. Not about love, but about how the world saw their love. She wondered if she was strong enough to walk beside a man whose life was always on display. She wondered if she could carry this weight forever. Keanu noticed her distance. He noticed her quietness. He noticed how her smile didn't always reach her eyes anymore. And he felt something inside him twist, a familiar feeling. Fear. Not fear of losing love. Fear of being the reason someone suffered. Late one night, he found Alexandra sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall, her hair a little messy, her eyes tired. He sat beside her without speaking. He didn't ask questions. He just waited. Finally, she whispered, Keanu, do you ever worry that the world will hurt what we have? Keanu took a slow breath. His voice was low, gentle, steady. I do, he said. But love has always been something the world tries to touch. Sometimes in good ways, sometimes in painful ways. But the world cannot take what we refuse to give away. Alexandra closed her eyes. I don't want to disappoint you, she said softly. Keanu turned his head slightly toward her. You could never disappoint me by being human. Those words went straight to her heart. But love is not healed in just one conversation. The next test came. Quietly. Alexandra received an invitation to a major art exhibition in another country. It was a huge opportunity, one she had been dreaming of for years. It would mean travel, long days, new connections. It would mean time apart, just like Sandra once had to leave in the other story. Alexandra now stood at a similar crossroads. When she told Keanu, he listened carefully. "This is your work," he said. "Your dream, your voice. It matters. You must go." But Alexandra hesitated. "It means weeks away, maybe months, and the world will talk again." Keanu smiled gently, a tired, soft smile. "The world will always talk, but our love does not live in their voices. It lives in what we choose every day." Alexandra felt her chest tighten, not from fear, but from how deeply she was cared for. She agreed to go. When the day came, they stood in the airport, not in a dramatic movie scene, but in something real, quiet, imperfect, emotional. Alexandra touched his cheek softly. "Please don't disappear into yourself again," she whispered. "I need to know you will still be here when I return." Keanu held her hand, his eyes warm but fragile. "I am not going anywhere. I have walked alone for too long. Now, I walk with you." She nodded. Her heart steadied. She turned and walked toward her gate. Keanu watched her go. Not with fear, not with doubt, but with love. However, love is not tested by the moment of leaving. Love is tested by what happens during the silence that follows. And the silence was coming. The first days after Alexandra left were calm. Keanu kept himself busy with work, reading, quiet dinners, long walks. He tried to stay present, reminding himself that love does not need constant touch to stay alive. But as days turned into weeks, the silence began to feel heavier. Messages between them continued, but sometimes time zones stretched the distance. Sometimes he waited for a reply longer than expected. Sometimes she sounded tired. Sometimes he did. Love was still there, but distance has a way of testing the softness of the heart. Alexandra, in the new city, was surrounded by artists, critics, interviews, gallery lights, and constant conversations. She smiled for photos. She spoke calmly in discussions. She stood beside her art proudly. But when she returned to her hotel at night, she sat on the bed and felt the quiet ache of missing someone who had become her peace. She would pick up her phone, sometimes type a message, then delete it, then type again, then simply whisper his name into the empty room. One night, she finally called him. It was late for her, early morning for him. When he answered, his voice sounded soft, still waking, but warm. "Hey," he said gently. Alexandra didn't speak right away. She breathed slowly, as if gathering her heart. "I feel like I am living two lives," she whispered. "One where I am strong and creative and sure, and one where I am just missing you." Keanu closed his eyes and listened, not to respond, to understand. "I miss you too," he said quietly. "But I don't want missing me to make you smaller. I want your world to keep growing. I want your art to reach places your heart hasn't touched yet." Alexandra's voice shook slightly. "What if I lose us in the process?" Keanu's heart tightened, but his voice stayed steady. "Then we will both hold on." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't empty. It was full of truth. But life does not test love only with distance. Life tests love with doubt. Rumors began to form online. Photos appeared of Alexandra speaking with another artist, smiling, laughing. People on social media wrote stories with no truth, no understanding. Some claimed she had moved on. Some said Keanu had been left behind again. Comments spread like wildfire, because the world loves to create tragedy where there is tenderness. Keanu saw the posts. He did not panic. He did not accuse. But something inside him grew quiet again. Not because he didn't trust Alexandra, but because the old wounds, the ones he tried to bury, began to open. The wound of being left. The wound of watching love slip away. The wound of pain that comes without warning. Alexandra did not know this was happening. She continued her work, continued her events. But one evening, something felt wrong. She sat alone in her hotel room, and she felt distant from him, like she was standing on the other side of a quiet, Invisible glass wall. She picked up her phone and called. Keanu answered, but his voice was soft in a different way, lighter, almost fading. Are you okay? She asked immediately. Keanu took a breath. It trembled just enough for her to hear. I am trying, he said. Those 3 words held everything. He was hurting. He was afraid. He was fighting to stay open. Alexandra felt something break inside her, not in pain, but in urgency. She finally understood that love was not just something you feel. Love is something you protect. Keanu, she whispered, I am coming back. He tried to stop her. No, you don't have to. But her voice was steady now, stronger than fear. I don't need to be strong alone. And you don't need to either. Love is not distance. Love is choosing to return. Her flight was tomorrow. And soon, their hearts would stand face to face with everything distance had changed. The next morning, Alexandra packed her suitcase quietly, without any dramatic music or sudden decisions. It was not running away. It was returning to where her heart felt steady. She booked the first available flight and headed to the airport. As she sat near the gate, people walked past her without knowing her story, without knowing the weight in her chest, without knowing that love itself was in motion. Back in his home, Keanu walked slowly through the rooms. The quiet felt heavier than usual. He kept reminding himself that love needs patience, not fear, but his heart felt fragile. The old memories he carried, the ones he never fully healed from, whispered again, everyone you love leaves. But he stopped himself, because Alexandra was not everyone. She was the one who stayed, the one who listened, the one who understood silence without filling it. Still, doubt can enter even the strongest hearts. While Alexandra was boarding the plane, another rumor went viral online. A photo of her at the gallery, standing beside the artist she had spoken to before. Their smiles were friendly, kind, harmless. But the internet turned it into a story of hidden romance. The headline was cruel, sharp, and heavy. Alexandra Grant seen getting close to new partner. People read. People judged. People assumed. Keanu tried not to look, but he saw. He sat down, breathing slowly, trying to separate truth from fear. He told himself that Alexandra had never lied to him, never hidden anything, never made him feel small. But the ache still bloomed. He whispered to himself, she chose me. She chooses me. But another voice answered quietly, what if this time you are wrong? Meanwhile, Alexandra stared out of the airplane window, unaware of the storm forming online. She was focused only on one thing, reaching him. Hours later, she landed. The airport looked the same as always, but everything inside her felt different. She walked fast, her heart pushing her forward, luggage rolling behind her like a constant echo of urgency. She took a taxi. Her hands shook slightly. Her chest felt full. When she reached his home, she stood there for a moment, breathing, gathering courage. Love is powerful, but facing the one you love when they are hurting requires strength. She knocked. Keanu opened the door slowly. He looked tired, gentle, fragile. Their eyes met. No words came, not because they had nothing to say, but because everything they needed to say was already in the silence. Alexandra stepped inside, set her bag down, and walked straight to him. She placed her hands on his face, holding him as if he might fade. I came back, she whispered, voice trembling. I choose you. I always choose you. The world can say anything. They do not know us. They do not feel what we feel. They do not get to decide our story. Keanu's eyes filled, not with tears of sadness, but of release. I was afraid, he admitted quietly, not of you leaving, but of losing what I finally found. Alexandra leaned her forehead to his, breathing the same slow breath. You are not losing me, she whispered. I am here. I am staying. Love is not something that disappears when pressure comes. Love becomes stronger. Keanu held her then, not gently, but like someone finally allowing themselves to rest. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and she held him back with equal strength. There were no cameras, no crowd, no noise. Just two hearts recognizing home. But while love found its ground again, the world outside was still watching. And soon, a moment would come that neither of them expected, a moment that would turn their quiet love into a public story in a way neither planned. The next morning, the city was bright and calm. Sunlight came through the windows gently, touching everything it could reach. Keanu and Alexandra sat at the small kitchen table, drinking tea. No rush, no pressure, just quiet togetherness. The kind of quiet that feels safe. They did not talk about the rumors. They did not talk about fear. They did not talk about what might happen next. Instead, they talked about simple things. Favorite books, new art ideas, music Keanu had been listening to. Small conversations that made the heart feel light again. Love is often found in the small moments, not the grand ones. Later in the day, they decided to take a walk. Not a dramatic walk, just a regular walk through the neighborhood. Something gentle, something normal, something real. They stepped outside, hands naturally finding each other, fingers intertwined like they had always belonged that way. They walked slowly, side by side, like they were learning how to breathe in the same rhythm. But the world has eyes. Someone noticed them first, then another, and another. Slowly, a few people began to gather. Some recognized Keanu. Some recognized Alexandra. Some recognized the way they held each other's hands. There were no screams, no rushing, no chaos. Just people watching, not because they wanted to intrude, but because they saw something beautiful. Keanu looked up and saw the small crowd forming. He felt Alexandra gently squeeze his hand, making sure he knew he was not alone. In the past, Keanu might have let go. He might have stepped back into his quiet shell. He might have faded into the background to protect his heart. But not this time. This time, he did not let go. He lifted his chin slightly, took a slow breath, and continued walking. Alexandra walked beside him with a soft smile, calm and steady. The crowd did not cheer. They did not overwhelm. They simply watched with quiet admiration, because what they were witnessing was not fame. It was love. Real love. Gentle love. Earned love. One older woman in the crowd whispered to her friend, "Look at the way he holds her hand. That's what love is supposed to look like." And someone else said softly, "They look like they have walked through storms to get here." They had. The world tried to twist their story. Fear tried to separate them. Distance tried to weaken them, but love remained. Keanu and Alexandra continued walking until they reached a small park. They sat on a bench beneath a tree. The wind moved softly round them. Leaves rustled like quiet applause from the earth itself. Alexandra rested her head on his shoulder. Keanu spoke softly, but this time there was no hesitation. "I used to believe love was something that always left me," he said. "But you showed me that love can stay. Love can be gentle. Love can come back even when life tries to take it away." Alexandra smiled, her voice warm. "Love is not something we chase," she whispered. "Love is something we choose." Again and again, they sat like that, not needing to hide, not needing to explain, not needing to defend. Just choosing each other. The crowd that had gathered earlier slowly dispersed, carrying the image with them. And later, when the story appeared online, it was different from the stories before. People did not argue. People did not criticize. People did not judge. Instead, they wrote, "They look happy. They look real. This is love." And for once, the world got it right. Keanu and Alexandra did not need approval. They did not need permission. They simply needed each other. And now, they walked hand in hand into the rest of their story. Not perfect, not loud, but true. Because love that survives storms does not fade. It becomes home.